Well, hello Internet, and welcome to part 12 of my Android Development for Beginners tutorial. Today what we're going to do is take the weather app that we previously built in Inkscape and move it over into App Inventor. So, I have a lot to do, so let's get into it. Okay, so here what I did was I actually took the weather app that we've been working on, and by the way, if you haven't seen part 11, you should pretty much have to watch it, otherwise this is just not going to make any sense to you. Now basically what I did here was I pulled out rulers, and I opened this up in Illustrator mainly because it's easier for me to present this to an Illustrator. It doesn't have anything against Inkscape. And you can see right here, I just pulled out rulers and I set them up to be on the edges of all of our components. So you can see right there, that's going to be where we're going to be able to search for cities. This is going to be our magnifying glass right here. 10 is going to represent a margin. And just understand that these numbers are not going to be exact, but they're going to be off by a couple pixels at most. And then what we're going to do, we're just going to measure out. So this is going to be 22 pixels right there. And this is going to be 17 pixels. And this space in here is going to fill parent, but it's going to be 12 pixels high. This is going to be 14 pixels high and also fill parent. And then I have to go through all the individual pieces inside of here. Now to start off with this interface, I'm just going to use dummy numbers. I'm not going to use exact numbers. So 37 is just going to be 37, and I'll worry about doing the updating with the temperature information and all that later. Remember, I just want to incrementally do this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get this little tool here, which Inkscape doesn't have. I showed you a workaround with it, but either way. And for this cloud here, I'm going to go from here and just measure it down to here at the very bottom of it. Then I can come over here and see that that is 95.89. So I'm basically just going to say that that's going to be 96. Again, this is a judgment call as well. Don't know if you can see that or not. And then whenever we measure from this part right here, you can see I actually wrote in 107. That is going to work out to 107. So let's just use this as an example right here for what we're going to do next. So 107 across and let's say 97 pixels down is going to enclose that whole entire cloud. Basically what I'm going to do now is just come in here and select all that and then jump over into a program like GIMP or like Photoshop and zoom in on this. See it? And there is our cloud. And we are just going to paste that on a transparent background and save it as a ping. In this situation, I called it rain.ping. Alright, and then we can jump over into App Inventor, because I think you get the gist of this and I don't need to go through all these different parts. I'll include the vector art as well as the finished art in a link in the description underneath this video. But that's basically all I do. I just pull these rulers out and I measure how much space they take up, and then I go and put a graphical representation over and save it as a transparent ping file. That's it. Now let's jump into App Inventor and take a look at how we assemble all of this inside of App Inventor. Alright, so here we are inside of App Inventor, and I already have the transparent ping that I have right there. And I'm just going to go in here and save some time. I'm going to upload file, and I'm going to go and get all my images. And you can see here inside of this folder, I have all the individual images all saved. So what I'm going to do is just go in here and start getting them and uploading them inside of App Inventor. I just find it easier just to do this in the beginning. And now you can see cloudy days down there. Click on upload file. You cannot upload more than one of these at a time, sadly enough. So hopefully someday they fix that. Cloudy night, upload another file. Dew point, which you're going to be able to see better here in a second. And then just keep uploading these files until we have all of our graphical files inside of App Inventor. Okay, and I got all that set up, and here is every single transparent ping I created. Now before I go on, I want to jump back over into Photoshop and make sure this is completely understandable. So here is the cloud and the rain. Whenever I create this guy, when I go File New, like that, I'm going to want to make sure that I set the pixels and the height for the right sizes, because like I said, if I come into this guy and go into image size, you're going to see that it's 107 by 96, exactly the same as I showed you in Illustrator. And that's going to be very important to make sure that we can keep our file sizes to a minimum and also keep our images clear. So I just wanted to make sure that you knew that I was doing that. So now to start off, basically what I want to do is I want to put in a little text box in here where they can enter that information as well as our magnifying lens. So I'm just going to do this step by step. So that means inside of App Inventor, I am going to come over here and go to Layout, and I'm going to get myself a horizontal arrangement, drag it over here, drop it right there, and then inside of it, I want to first put some padding. And in this tutorial, I'm going to show you a whole bunch of different ways to use padding. I'm going to show you how to use a ping to use padding. I'm going to show you how to use just an empty image to do padding. But for this first part, I'm going to use a transparent padding, which is actually going to be an image. But first I want to do with the horizontal arrangement I have right here is come over here to width and change this to fill parent and say OK. I'm not going to worry about messing with the height or any of those other different things. And then inside of it I'm going to put some padding in. And like I said, this is something you have to play with. The work that we did in the vector art tool is going to give us rough numbers. Like I said, they're going to be off by a pixel here or a pixel there. For the most part, they're going to be very accurate. But just understand they won't be perfect and you will have to play around with this stuff. Alright, so after I thought about it for a little bit, I decided that my padding for this guy should be 15 pixels in width, and for height, 22 pixels. Again, I had these pretty much exactly in the vector art. I did have 22 pixels, but I had 17, and I later changed that to 15, just because of the way it looks. Then I'm just going to go into Picture, right like this, and I'm going to go Transparent Ping, right like that. Like I said, I'm going to put a compressed folder that's going to have all those images for you in the description, but there you go. So I put the padding inside of there. Well, then what do I need? Well, I need a text box so that they can enter their city name. So I'm just going to grab a text box out of here, drag it up here, drop it inside of there, and then this I had to fiddle with quite a bit to get the width and the height right on it. But if you're making this, it's going to work perfectly fine. First, for the text inside of it, I'm going to put Enter City. Also, you're probably going to have to play around with the font size. I eventually decided on 11 for my font size. It fit nice and snug inside of there. I'm going to rename this while I'm here to, there we go, City Text Box. Very important to have your names actually mean something. Go OK. And inside the vector art tool, I had this set for 256 pixels for my width, and that ended up working perfectly. So I'm going to say OK on that. And for my height, I'm going to set that to 30 pixels. So I think you can see how important it is to do that in the vector art, because it's very easy to do it here now after I have all that work done. Now I'm going to get myself a button over here, and I'm going to put my magnifying lens on that, just drop it inside of there, come over here and rename it now just so I don't forget, and I am going to call this search button because that makes a lot of sense. There we go. Come over here. I'm just going to let all these things be the way that they are, except when I get down here to image, I'm going to want to use my search button for the image. And there it is, search button ping. Click OK. Don't want any text on it. Got rid of that. And then I'll come down here for my width and set that to 37, exactly like I had for the vector art tool. And change this to 30. OK? And very often it's going to run off inside of this emulated sort of version of your device, but in the real world it won't. And of course you can check it just by going Connect and AI Companion and looking at your device or opening up the emulator. And if I open up Illustrator again, you're going to see right here 37 for the width, and over here it's 22. I think the 22 changed but the 37 didn't, and sure enough that's exactly right. The 37 pixels ended up working out well, but as I moved from the vector art over into App Inventor, I realized this couldn't be 22 pixels, it had to be 30. So that's perfectly fine. So there we got our first row done. Now what's next? Well, Pittsburgh, I want to have it on its own line because we never know how long the city name is going to be. So that's just going to be fill parent, and that's going to be very easy to do. Back over into App Inventor again. But the very first thing I want to do here is to put like a margin or padding between. So I'm going to go into Layout again. I'm going to go Horizontal Arrangement, drag that over here, drop it inside of there. Come over here, I'm going to say Fill Parent for my width. Fill parent. And then for the height, I'm going to change this to 4 pixels. Say I didn't have to use a transparent ping file or anything, and that's going to work perfectly for my little margin that I want inside of there. Then I'm going to have to make room for my city name as well as the margin. Don't forget that. And we're just going to go in here, grab another horizontal arrangement, drag it, drop it right there. Here I'll use an image again, transparent ping file, drop that right there. Come over inside of this, make the horizontal arrangement fill parent, there we go. And if we look at this, it's saying that it should be 14 in height. Inside of App Inventor, I decided that the height made more sense at 22. Again, you're going to have to fiddle with these things, but after you do it for a while, it'll get pretty easy. Then for my image, which is just going to be a margin, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to change my width to 15 just like I did above. I want the margins to be consistent. Leave the height be automatic. And for the picture, I'm going to make it transparent ping again. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to have to put the city name inside of this. So come over here, just get a label, drag it over here, drop it in there. Going to have to change the font, of course, because it looks different. Come down here, I'm going to rename this to city name label. City name label. Okay. And again, after playing around with it for a little bit, I thought the font size looked good at 20. So let's increase that. Let's give it some default text as Pittsburgh. There we go. The width is going to be fill parent because I want it to be able to fill out the whole entire area. And the height is going to be 22, just like the other component. Okay, and we take a look at it. There we go. We'll worry about changing the colors later on. Might actually want this to be bold as well. So let's change that to bold. And there we go. It's looking pretty good. Once again, forget about the colors. I'll fix that later. Then I'm going to need another margin. So go into layout again, get another horizontal arrangement, drop it inside of there. Over here, width is going to be fill parent. Okay, and I'm going to leave the height as automatic. Then inside of this, I'm going to just go over inside of Illustrator and look at this. This is the part I'm going to be working on right now. This guy right here is going to be these numbers and so forth, as well as this cloud. These are going to be in a table format. So go into user interface, grab an image, drop it inside of there. And like I said before, you don't need a transparent ping inside of there. So I'm just going to leave this as none. Right there is what I'm referring to. And I'm going to make my width 15 and then click on OK. Let height be automatic. And there's our margin. Now I want to stack these guys. Look at this, just so we remember. I want to put 37 here, and then I want to put chance of rain underneath of it. So I'm going to use a table arrangement this time. Grab this, drop it inside of there. And then for this table arrangement, I'm going to have one column and 2 rows. That works out great. And I'm going to make the width 167. And I'm going to make that 167 because the vector art tool I have here told me to. Let's go in here, just measure it to make sure. And I'm going to have this go the whole way over and butt up against this image right here. Take up as much space as possible. And in the vector art tool, it came out to 170. So I just shaved off a little bit. No big deal. Then I'm just going to have to get myself 2 labels that are going to represent first the temperature and secondly the current weather conditions. You can see that these are broken into 2 rows. Drop that right there. And this is going to be my temperature. So I'm just going to rename it right now. Let's call it current temp label. Okay, change the font size on this to big because it is big, to 48. And then the text inside of this is going to be 37. And on Macs, you hold down Option and K to draw a degree. I'm sorry, but I don't know how to do that in other things, but you can look that up. It's no big deal. And then I have to get my weather description. Well, I'm also, if I click out of there, you're going to see the temperature. Looks good. Get another label that's going to be the current weather conditions. Drop that inside of there. Over here, rename it. And this is going to be current weather label. Come in here, change my font size to 16 and my text to chance of rain. And let's go and look and see what that looks like. Looks pretty good. And now I can get my large weather image and place it inside of there. I'm going to go and get another layout. This is going to be a horizontal arrangement. Yes, you can put these layouts inside of layouts. There that is. Change it to 107 pixels for my width, because that's what my vector art tool told me it should be. And then I'm going to get myself an image and drop it in there. User interface, image, drop it right there. And then I'm going to go get my rain. So where's rain? There's rain. Click OK. And there you can see it's placed inside of there. I'm also going to click on this table arrangement and change this width right here to 167. And there you can see everything is looking perfect now. Okay. Now I'm going to put some padding inside of this. So just grab a layout, come over here, grab horizontal arrangement, drop it right underneath here. Come over here and I'm going to change my width to fill parent. Okay. And my height is going to be 6 pixels. And there we go. Go to margin again. Alright, so the next thing I need to do is put in this big text area here so I'll be able to grab information on current weather and display these 4 lines of text. So I'm going to get another horizontal arrangement, drag it over here, drop it right there. I'm going to get myself a margin, user interface, grab an image, drop it inside of there. Like I said before, we don't need to do anything or put a transparent ping inside of there if we don't want to. Set my width on this guy to 15 pixels, just like I have every other time. Leave everything else be the same. And then I'm going to make this be a label, just like before. Drop it inside of there. I'm going to rename this guy Current Weather Report Label. Very descriptive. Over here, I'm going to let the font size be 14. And then I'm going to come down here and have my width be fill parent. And then I'm just going to put something like current weather. Or actually, you know what? What's even better than that? I'll jump over inside of here and I'll just copy and paste exactly what this is, so we'll have a good understanding of what we're working with. paste that in there. I pasted that into the text area, and boom, there you can see it's all right there. And like I said, don't worry about what it looks like inside of App Inventor. Things change whenever you actually emulate them or show them differently. And then I'm going to get myself another layout. This is going to be another margin. Grab this, drop it right there. Come over here, change its width, fill parent. Height, again, is going to be 6 pixels, just like I've used a whole bunch other times. And then you can see inside of here I have a bar that goes across, this blue bar. So let's go and create that inside of here. So I'm going to go and get myself another horizontal arrangement, drag that there. Get myself another image, drag that down there. I'm going to have a margin just like before. Make sure you drop it in the right one. Come inside of here, and for the horizontal arrangement, I'm going to make sure that because this is a bar that I know I want to have it be 10 pixels high, I'm going to define it inside of here for the height. So this is going to be 10 pixels. And that's with the horizontal arrangement once again. And I'll have my width be fill parent, just like before. Select my image inside of here, and have the width on this be 15 pixels. And everything else can stay the same. And then I'm actually going to use a label, and in the next part of the tutorial I'm going to make it blue. So I'm just going to grab label. I'm going to change its background color to blue when everything's initialized. And then I measured this out in my vector art tool. I'm going to let the font size be 14, doesn't matter. I'm going to get rid of this text because it's going to end up being blue, and it's not going to have text, it's just a dividing line. And I'm going to have my width in this guy be 290 pixels. And I have my height be 4 pixels. Like I said, it's weird to use a label as a line, but in the next part of the tutorial I'll show you how to set that up. Then we're going to get ourselves another margin. Just go into layout again, horizontal arrangement, drop it right there. Width, fill parent, height, 6 pixels. And now comes the big guy, which is going to be this right here. Now, if we count this out, this is going to be for the margins. This is going to be a table layout. This is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to measure from the drop right up to this number. The number is going to be 7. And whenever it's all said and done, I'm going to have 13 columns with 1 row to create this guy right here. Let's jump over in App Inventor and start playing around with that. So I'm going to need a table arrangement for this, because I'm going to have a whole bunch of columns. And it's going to have 13 columns and 1 row, and its width is going to be fill parent. Okay. Then what am I going to need? Well, I'm going to need an image in the very first part. That's going to act as a margin. Image. Drag it down here. Drop it right there. And the width is all that's going to matter. So I'm going to give it a width of 22 pixels. There we go. Then I'm going to need another. This is going to represent the low temperature. It's going to be an image. Drag it over here. Drop it inside. I'm going to come up here. Get picture. And look for low temp. There it is. Got it. Come over and look here. You can see there's low temp right there. And I'm just going to make sure that the width is 12 pixels, exactly like my vector art tool told me. And then I'm going to have a dividing line between the image and the actual low temperature. So if we look at this, you can see right here, have the margin. There's the image. And then I want to have a margin inside of this, and then the actual number right after that. So just come over here, grab this label, drop it right there, and it's going to act as a margin. So I don't want any text inside of it. And I know that I want its width to be 19 pixels. So 19. Okay. Now I can put the actual low temp. See, it's just acting like a margin just like this is. Now I can get a real label, drop it inside of there, and this guy is going to represent the current low temperature. So let's just make this 19 degrees with a degree there. Font size 14 is going to be perfectly fine, and the width is going to be 43, just like it showed inside of the vector art tool. 43. Okay. Let's go back in the vector art tool just to make sure. See, right here. 43. So that's how I figured out those numbers. Jump back, and now I'm going to have dew point inside of here. So I need another image. Drag the image over, drop it right there. Come up here to the picture area, look for dew point. There's dew point. Click on OK. I know that I want the width for this to be 12 pixels. Click OK, and there we go. Now the dew point's inside of there. Now what I'm going to need to do, I'm going to have to put another margin between the dew point and the actual number. So grab another label, drag it over here. I know it might seem weird to use a label as a margin, but that's what I'm doing. And then have this be a width of 19 pixels, because that's what I worked out in my vector tool. Also, probably a good idea, because I'm going to have to be changing this temperature right here. I'm going to give it a good name. I don't really worry about giving the labels a good name, because, you know, what are you going to name them? This is going to be current low label. That's fine. Alright, so I have that divider inside of there. I'm going to get another label, and this is going to actually have the dew point inside of it. This, get rid of that. I'm just going to change this to 22, just as a generic junky number. Font size 14, that's perfectly fine. And the width in this situation is going to be 36. Click OK, and there you can see, have the low and the dew point. Let's see if this is still 22 over here. Oh, yeah, you can see right there, 36 is what I meant, yes. So that is still 36. So as you can see, I'm working directly off the vector tool. And also, it's very important to understand that I am using the label that's going to contain the dew point or the temperature in this situation. I'm increasing the width on those larger than what is needed to space out everything. And that's just something I do. I don't know if that's something that everybody does. Just works for me for doing interfaces. Drag another image down here. This is going to be wind chill. Picture, wind chill. Where is that wind chill? There's wind chill right there. Okay. Give this a good name also. Rename. Let's just have it be current dew point label. And then for my wind chill, I want to give that a width of 17 because that's what we worked out before. Put another label in here for spacing reasons and no other reason aside from that. And that's going to be 20 pixels for the width. There we go. Grab another label over here, drag it over here, and this is going to represent wind chill. Might as well give it a good name now so I don't forget. Current wind chill label. Here, font size 14 is fine. For this, get rid of that. Change this to 27. Come down here, and like I said, dynamically we'll change all those things later on. Come in here for my width, change that to 37. Everything else is fine. And then we need to put in our final image, which is going to be visibility. Grab another image, drag it over here, drop it next to this. Over there. Go get myself a picture. It's going to be visibility is going to be the name. Where's visibility? There's visibility. Click OK. Change the width to 20 pixels. Put in another label to act as a margin between the visibility. Here, get rid of that. Change its width to 10 pixels. OK. And then the final label, which is going to represent whatever the visibility actually is. Make sure you fit it in there right. There it goes. Let's rename it to current visibility label. There we go. Click OK. Give it a text of 7.00 and a width of 42. And there you go. You're all done. For your homework, what you need to do is go in and do the second row, exactly like I did right there, and then you'll be able to do it. What I mean by second row is this. You'll put that in there, and then also put in another dividing line, and then we'll worry about this stuff down here later. Like I said, I have all this work already done for you, changed from vector art into regular ping files. If you want that, it's available in a link in the description. Please leave your questions and comments below. Otherwise, till next time.